What do you need to know about Phnom Penh, Cambodia? It depends on whether you're here as a short-term visitor, tourist, or you're here looking for a long-term place. Luckily, there's just enough overlap that we can roll the two things together. If it's long-term options you're looking for, of course there are choices for you in the perimeter of the suburban parts of the city. But we'll start here at the heart of the city, both on a map and figuratively at Wat Phnom. Phnom translating roughly to mountain, and Penh after the Madam Penh that in the late 1300s had the hill built up and the pagoda built on it. Chances are you want to be at the heart of everything going on, which is right where we find ourselves. So let's get started looking around and seeing everything we have to choose from. Behind them is Wat Botum, or Botum Pagoda. And this is the appropriately named Wat Botum Park. Huge, long piece of real estate. People out here day, all night long. Let's take a look at the skyline, actually. This city is growing very quickly, and the more shots I give you, the more you're gonna see. There are not many buildings compared to some of the other countries where they are vacant, incomplete, abandoned projects. We are standing in front of the Independence Monument, and you can see in the skyline just how much construction there is. So there's this interesting phenomenon happening right now as we're approaching sunset. Look at all these people. And this just gets busier and busier as the night goes on. Everybody comes out and everybody moves in the same direction. You can see what the construct is here, kind of in the heart of downtown. So what I'm told is that in this area, you can find an apartment in those 3 to 4, 5-story buildings that are not true condo towers, but you can rent an apartment down here for like $300 to $500 a month, and that you would be able to get your electric rates, water, utility bills at the government rate, kind of like the locals do. However, if you are looking to buy a condo or rent a condo in one of these fancy newer towers to the tune of, you could be paying up to $800 or so. But here's the kicker, is your electric is going to be about 4 times the government rate. So you really have to be able to sort through categorically which things fit the budget. If Phnom Penh is somewhere you're considering starting your new life, at some point in your search around the city, you will end up in this area, BKK1. It's really hard to get a single perfect shot of it, but what I want to show you is how many big, nice condo buildings there are to choose from. And this is just what's built. I mean, there's towers going up all over the place. So it's a pretty large area, but it's a very international community of the more well-heeled looking for their place to be. Lots of dining options, lots of retail options, fancy retail options down at the ground level. If you're on a really tight budget as, the basic pensioner, I think this is gonna be pretty tight for you. But if you have a little bit more resource, that you're looking to build a new life here, start business, there's a lot of people coming this way. Advantage, it's gonna be a very international community, probably with a lot of like-minded people. Disadvantage, very congested traffic. It can feel very boxed in because of that, and there's not a lot of walking space. Getting around can be a challenge. Scattered throughout BKK1 are several international academies, international schools at like the high school level. Now that's a really good indicator anywhere in Southeast Asia. When you see that, it's a sign of upwardly mobile people that are concerned with their children having strong education, their private schools, and being able to speak English primarily as a global business language. So if you are one of the expatriating people whose really primary concern is keeping that pension in a tight budget, it might be more challenging in this area, or Phnom Penh in general. This is a little bit more of an advanced city. I almost think people finding the greatest amount of happiness and success here are if you're coming with a little more resource and your intent is to help these people build a bigger future and invest in them. Now, it won't be for everybody, but just a short tuk-tuk ride from the heart of downtown, the heart of the city center, I'm standing in the middle of Diamond Island. And this is all new in the sense that just in the last couple of decades has this river island been built up and many new condo options. So again, it's not that it's gonna be for everybody, but you could end up getting some pretty spectacular views of the city, the river, and who knows, maybe some good prices. So that's Diamond Island that we were just standing on. So much construction and development happening. And then if you're gonna go further from the city center, we cross this sail bridge where we find ourselves on Norea Island. And I don't know if I've expressed this, but Phnom Penh is a city in a state of becoming. And there's even more buildup and development moving that way down the island. So from the heart of the city, taking a tuk-tuk ride to right where I'm standing at any given time would probably be about 6,000 riel at any time of day, which is equivalent to like $1.5 US. So not owning a vehicle and being able to get yourself back and forth when they probably drive much better than you do, you just have more options. I mean, so you have several projects that you can see right here, some of them complete, some underway, and the further you go down that road, the more buildings there are going up. So this is gonna be pretty substantial. Let's keep going. In the heart of Norea Island's development is a pretty vast night market. This island is built up in the river, almost like a second city, because I mean, Phnom Penh is growing so fast. They have to make room for all these people. So, and then on this side, on the river, also a very lengthy and vast riverfront, very popular area as the sun is going down. Just to give you an idea of what you've been looking at, this was Diamond Island that we were on. We crossed the sail bridge and it moves lengthwise away from the heart of downtown city center, okay? So Norea Island, and you can see in all, I mean, if you're looking in the background, there is so much building happening, nicer, newer, and it kind of has the feel of like a, you know, in the United States when they do modular suburban second cities where they, you know, you have to start all over again with the infrastructure. That's kind of what this feels like it would be completely self-sustaining, all these nice restaurants, I mean, very popular. So that's looking back towards the sail bridge. The Old Market, which is pretty fitting name. It's probably more for the locals than the foreigners. A lot of elements here that are the traditional elements. It's a good walk around. It takes up a whole city block, and there's not a ton of stuff going on inside the building, but the perimeter, lots of interesting things. It's a visual feast. Very, very fresh ingredients. I mean, you watch it all happen here. It's a much more personal, firsthand connection with the food you eat. Don't let that scare you away completely. Even if you're vegan, there's plenty of reasons to come down here. Fresh fruit and vegetables. So here's what our overall surroundings look like. Let's head on over to the night market. Okay, so let's take a walk on back. We got a central courtyard, and on both sides, about the perimeter, are aisles that kind of go lengthwise, wrap around, almost in a horseshoe shape. Show you what that looks like right now. A lot of different, I mean, pretty typical to what you see at any market or night market. Quite a bit of clothing and shoe stands. And it kind of looks like this throughout. Slight variation, but in general, pretty much the same thing you're used to. Most of the signs inside of these stands say right off the bat, 10,000 riel, which is equivalent to, right now, $2.50. So that's a per garment of clothing. Now let's just ask real quick, how much shoes? $10. $10 US for some, now granted, they're not the real thing, but for some of those shoes, yeah? Okay, let's go take a look next door. How much? $5? Oh my God, this story just keeps getting better. So the great thing is in this market, they have kid shoes. How much? She says $10. Now that's cool. And, oh, by the way, since no market is complete without Crocs, you got the little kitty Crocs. How much for the kid Crocs? Same? Same. $5, $6, $7. Thank you. It's a great walk through here, worth your time. It opens at like 6 o'clock in the evening, goes till 10 or 11 at night. Night market. Next. But before we move on to the next place, I should point this out. Again, there's food in the back area, and all of these pads, it's seating. Seating for everybody to eat. And the whole area is surrounded by restaurants. Tonight is the first night ever of Phnom Penh's walking street. And it's literally just walking right now. There are no vendors out. It's almost like either most people didn't know or didn't believe it was actually going to happen. So this has been in the books as a plan since 2019, but the pandemic derailed like most plans. And tonight is the first night they've actually done it. Street number 1, the Riverfront street, is blocked off from street number 94 all the way to 240. So it's a long distance. But I'll tell you something, I have been down here several times really to like see this Riverfront Promenade, and it is like 1,000 times more pleasant. It is orders of magnitude better being down here. This totally makes me want to be down here and visit the bars, restaurants, whatever, hang out down at the riverfront. And I think everybody else is having this same reaction of like, oh my gosh, our city looks completely different. So what a fantastic thing. What an honor to be standing here in the street telling you about it. If you are Cambodian and this is the first time you're hearing about it, you gotta get down here and check this out. Because even the whole walk along the way, all of the little side streets, you know, for at least one block in, it has this completely different look and feel because there's no traffic tearing through there, making it all dangerous. So what a cool thing, and I hope they stick with this forever. So now we are in one of the bar districts of Phnom Penh. And this area is really not to be missed. If you enjoy nightlife and you like really interesting decor, all of these bars are just a little bit different. Equally charming. I mean, if this was in a big city in America, this would be destination. So where we find ourselves right now, we just came out of Bassac Lane, but let's take a quick walk down Bassac Street. Now, as I flip back around, you're gonna notice there's tuk-tuk drivers everywhere. Lots of activity, lots of people. And we are here on the first night of the Lunar New Year. So I can't take you very far in because we've got a little bit of a parade going on. But just giving you an idea, it's bar after bar. So if you're here in Phnom Penh, be sure you come down here for relaxing adult beverages. Okay, so this is the end of the line and I'll show you why. Behind me. Oh, got the parade going. So, but you get the idea. You get the idea. Bassac Lane, Bassac Street. Come check it out. Somewhere beneath the shadows of the imposing skyscrapers and the cranes bringing up new condo buildings are the neon lights of the adult playground. So you have streets 130, 136, and 118. Kind of a several block district. Now, there's no way to get the perfect shot because as soon as people see the camera, they just go diving out of the way. So there's really no point in me trying to get the perfect shot lighting or anything like that. In the middle of all of it are very normal hotels and restaurants. There's no doubt about it. But anybody that's been to any city in Southeast Asia, you know exactly what you're looking at. This is a party that goes all night long. You will not get any sleep at all if you are staying down here. But for some people, that is the ticket. Big bang for the buck. So you can see all the chairs sitting out, all the girls come out, and it's super interesting to see much later in the night when this goes on, when all the chairs are full with all the girls, and they shout at you as you walk by, and they're like, hey, but then they put their heads right back into their phones. It's like, you know, it's not the best sales delivery you've ever seen, but you know, it's still a very, very interesting phenomenon. Just gonna keep this camera going for a few. Normally people just dive out of the way completely with the camera, so hopefully they're letting me record him. On to the next. Out of all the markets you have to choose from in Phnom Penh, if you were only gonna pick one, this is the one I would tell you to go to. But on the map, it shows as Russian market. But I wouldn't be so fooled by that. At first glance, there's nothing Russian about it. The name more comes from a demographic history of the area that is no longer characteristic of it. So inside this market, it's pretty much everything you're used to at any market, but it's vast. There's everything you could want in the name of souvenirs. Let's walk down this line. Hello. Ooh. So many things. I have a question. How much? How much?
For the wooden one, right?
Yeah.
We have many different prices.
Yes.
Depend on the wood. Like this is redwood is about $8.
Redwood, $8.
Yeah. 32,000 bill.
Okay. $8. What about this bright blue one?
The bright blue is tiger eye. Is 25.
Tiger eye.
Yeah.
$25.
Yep. Natural color.
Ooh, that is
And it's
beautiful.
good for you.
A lot of different bags, bamboo cups, and even bamboo thermal mugs. Okay, I'm gonna give you the driver's seat here. Of course, dried goods, big bags of nuts. Big bags of nuts. Clothing for kids, adults. And it just keeps going. So spend any amount of time in here, and you're really going to develop a new respect for what these people go through every day. Every single day this is open. It's not even that hot outside, and it is very warm in here with all of these burners going, all of these woks cooking. So she's making some lotcha right now with those rice noodles, some eggs, some vegetables. There's this subtle feature that I want you to see here. Normally, you'd be used to seeing a wok, which the woks are everywhere, but all the ladies in here are cooking with like a flat pan. She has it at a tilt, at an angle, so that the grease comes down from the food she's cooking, the noodles, and then goes down. It's almost like they've hammered out a little divot where she cooks the eggs. It's this genius little system, so she doesn't even have to use any extra grease. It's just done with the normal patina of the cookware and what comes off of the noodles. And it's so, so good. How much, Lotcha? How much? 8,000 real. That's $2. $2 for the dish that I just had. If you come through Russian market a little later in the day like I have, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon right now. Oh, let's take a look at this. Look at what we got. Frog and definitely insects, bugs of some type. Oh, we got some fresh catch here. Fresh. That's as fresh as it gets. Oh, I love it. It's later in the afternoon. The sun is setting behind the building, so it's very cool, very comfortable being in the streets around the perimeter of the market. And I'd recommend you take a look around, if nothing else, because look around. Oh. So much happening. So we're just getting towards where rush hour traffic is going to happen, that it's not even worth me trying to go across town right now. So I thought for the first time I'd take a look at what is in the streets around the perimeter. And I hope you're seeing all this. Just a nice slow stroll. You've got all the produce. And whether the camera picks it up or not, all of this produce is so fresh looking. I mean, maybe it's oxtail? I'm not sure. Very awesome, very awesome. Ah. It's a Russian market and the streets surrounding. Cutting up some chicken. We got some fresh prawns. And you can even get, we've got a section here where it's all pickled, right? Got like kimchi going on, frying up some pancakes. So much happening. I mean, you can't miss this, because this is what you came here for. You don't even have to buy anything, but I would recommend the Lotcha noodles. Oh, this is my favorite, second favorite behind the Lotcha. So they're little round rice cakes, almost like hockey pucks. And they fry them up. Oh, they're so good. And they're cheap. They're like 2,000 riel, or like 50 cents, half of a US dollar. But you feel the energy of the streets. And you share in my disappointment that in all of this, you have something like that. What an insult. See, look at these. Oh my God. How much? How much?
One, $35.
$35. Feels like synthetic down. This one, how much? Same, $40. Okay. I bet I could get her down. Thank you very much. Oh, see, this is cool. These ones that go, they go like down below your waist. All right, so let's talk through what we see here. You have this central dome that's really high, tallest one I've seen in any market yet. And these corridors that go off, 4 of them, also with high ceilings. And there's ventilation built into the walls and the ceiling everywhere. So this is one of the coolest, the air is flowing through here. It's very comfortable being in here, which is different than most markets where it can get really stuffy and uncomfortable. So down these lines you have, well, I mean, you can see everything happening around me. Lots of jewelry, same stuff as always, the clothing, souvenir type items. So there's the 4 main corridors, but then there's these, I don't know if oblique is the right word, but like diagonals that cut off from the side. So all of this should look pretty familiar to you. Not nearly as big as Russian market, but somehow the scope of it seems much more grand. But it's pretty much the same stuff. So this is the central market. And I just wanted to show you what the layout is like, what it looks like. It's the end of the day, so nobody's even bothering with calling out, hey, what do you want? Upon walking around this shop, it turns out there's actually a lot more to this than I thought. So I just bought, for example, there's much more like toiletry items, which are really good. You know, you travel for a long time. It's a pack of mini packs of portable baby wipes, which is great because you can put them, you get the point. So I just paid her, I bargained her down to $2 for that thing. So really, it's where it's like there's so much more than meets the eye is out in the periphery, the perimeter. There's all these little sub-corridors, all kinds of, there's even like tailors here and a whole fresh food section. But they've got these shops also. This is actually really hard to find in Southeast Asia. Hair clippers, hair blow dryers, all kinds of different camera pods, camera stands that are like cross-compatible with if you have a cell phone you want to be mounting or a GoPro, Insta. Yeah, all the earbuds pieces, little tiny disc data holders, speakers, flashlights, surprisingly hard to find. And there's a few of these shops here with all kinds of different goods that you can choose from. I mean, they got knives, but you really have no business carrying that as a traveler, right? Am I right? That's nothing but trouble for me. As we're walking away from the Central Market, calling it a day, for what it's worth, I just think it's worth your time to walk these streets. Not just where you're looking for what you want, but taking it all in, all of it. The buildings around you, the people around you, what they're doing, the things they're selling in the middle of the street that don't even equate to you in your Western math. Because you just never know when the moment is gonna occur to you what your next business plan is. And Cambodia is moving so fast into the future, making up for what's essentially like lost economic development time, right? You come here, you're able to start a business and give people jobs and help them build and grow this. You are gonna have a very enriching experience. So, while it's not for beginners, Phnom Penh, it's for journeyers, and there is opportunity here. So keep an open mind, keep open eyes. There's so much happening, so much happening. So even if you do agree with me that this is like, I don't know if I could do it, I'm not ready for this yet, it's quite worth the visit. It's very stimulating. It's an urban jungle. All right, on to the next thing. Hello, my friends. Yeah? We are out in front of the Royal Palace of Cambodia. But I gotta tell you, it'll cost you $10 US to tour around the place. You can pay an extra $10 for an English-speaking guide or whatever language you prefer. But there's a fair amount of it off limits to include what I would argue is the grandest and most beautiful building on the complex, the Moonlight Pavilion. So you can see it from right here. The Royal Palace Park, very appropriately named. Now, today is the first day of the Lunar New Year, but it's like this every single day going into the evening. This is a very popular gathering spot for families. We're in the Royal Palace Park, looking back on the Royal Palace, Moonlight Pavilion. And just this way, through the park, there is a riverfront promenade, tons of walkability. And as the sun's going down, it's very pleasant to be out there. In the daytime, there's no real shade, so it can get a little warm. But right about now, all the people are out. Now, if you can see it, this gets into a larger conversation. Traffic, we're right about at the rush hour of traffic. And traffic in this city is very cumbersome. During the morning and the evening rush hours, there is no mass transit to speak of. There's no real bus system or metro system, and the city's growing very, very fast. So that is something to be aware of if your thought is that you are gonna relocate here for the long term. So some people can afford cars, but for a lot of people, getting around is just about motorbikes and tuk-tuks. Okay, lots of traffic. I mean, just moving several kilometers one evening took me an hour and a half in a tuk-tuk to get to a mall up on the north side of the city. Cost me about $4 US for that ride. It was long. Okay, I think you get the point. So let's move on. Next, this is the National Museum, right next to the Royal Palace. Beautiful building, very nicely designed inside. It's a great walk around. It'll cost you $10 US to visit. And like any museum, you can feel a little bit disengaged, like it's sanitized, but here's the really cool project that they're doing. Over 1,000 treasured pieces have been repatriated to the country after the prosecution of those as trafficked items. And what they're doing is they're in the process of telling the story of how those pieces moved around the world when they were pirated and how they came back, to make it just a little more engaging than a piece itself. So I look forward to seeing when that's complete. Street 172. 172. So we're 1 block away from the Royal Palace and the National Museum. And this is a very popular street with all of the foreigners, travelers. There are accommodations here. During the daytime, it's exactly what you see. Lots of restaurants, bars with pool tables, a lot of foot traffic, a lot of tuk-tuk traffic. But once the sun goes down, turns into more of a bar and party scene, gets pretty loud, and even the more subtle ingredients of the adult playground. So, 172. Ooh, this one's hard. I'm standing outside of the Tuol Sleng Genocide Museum, also known as Prison S21. 21 just being, it was like a numerator system for all of the prisons that they had during the Khmer Rouge time. So this is what the complex looks like. There's 2 ways you can go through. Number 1 is on a bus with a large tour group, tour guide, and it's a pretty hurried experience because this is just 1 stop. Or you find your way here, you pay $5 US to get in, you pay another $5 US for audio, and they have it in multiple different languages. And that's what I'd recommend, because you can visibly tell the difference quite clearly between the depth of experience people are having as they're doing the tour on their own time, at their own pace, with the guided audio tour versus the guided tour. It's very, very heavy. It is devastating to do this tour. Give yourself at least a half a day. One of the eeriest things when you're doing it is that this used to be a high school before it was used as what it was used for the systematic execution of many, many people during Khmer Rouge. That you're in a residential neighborhood, and it all happened, nobody knew it. It was totally secret, and they almost buried the secret completely, except that when they evacuated, they didn't have enough time to destroy all the documentation and the pictures. So, do it. It gives you just this much of an appreciation for how that period of time in the Cambodian psyche is almost too much to even think about. So I recommend it. I recommend it. It's going to ruin your day. I promise you. But that's going to do it for this brief introduction to Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I hope you found it a little bit helpful. So there's some takeaways here. Start with your tourist visa to see if you want to stay long term. And if you're going to start a business or engage in business conduct, a business visa, for example, a year-long business visa is $300 a year. So that's a much better bang for the buck. Now, my ride. If you're extending your tourist visa here in Phnom Penh, it's like $50, but it can be a 10-day wait. Expediting that to like an overnight is like $150 US. So get started ahead of time. It's a little cheaper if you do it in Siem Reap. I saw an office that does it for $30 there. So do what you will with that information. Okay, if I was gonna stay here long term, I would, number 1, try to find a network of people who speak my native language to at least bounce my ideas off of, even if I don't take any of their advice or use any of their connections. Number two, if I was going to be starting a business or investing in being here more long-term, what I would be doing is looking for somebody I can trust that speaks Khmer, a native Cambodian, but also speaks my native language. If you want the contact information for the person who I would be using, that I personally met, let me know. I'll put it in the description below. You can reach out to her. I would trust her to make decisions on my behalf. And yeah, so she's gonna make sure that I get the right prices, the real prices, but for each step of the way, I'm gonna be paying her a percentage for what she's doing for me. So it's not free, obviously, but it's well worth it that you don't get in over your head and get taken to the cleaners. Okay, so that's pretty much gonna do it. I need a break from the city life. So I'm getting a bus out of here, heading to the countryside for a little while, get out of the noise, find some peace and meditative space. So I will see you in the next town.